Welcome to Carousel. I'm your host, Marcelle Soviero, and tonight we're going to hop on the carousel as we do every week and talk to interesting people about interesting things. Tonight I'm delighted to have back Scott and Kitty Kuhner, who have sailed around the world not once but twice. Last week we talked quite a bit about your first trip around the world, which was in 1971 when you started as a couple without children, and tonight we're going to continue your journey to your second trip. So please help us know, tell us when this was, what year, what inspired you, how old the children were.
Okay. Essentially, we got back from the first trip. I got a job back on Wall Street, and Kitty got a job. And lo and behold, within 2 years, Kitty was pregnant and had our first child. And so the kids were born, what years, Kitty?
76 and 78.
Right.
Okay.
And in...
Two sons.
Yeah,
Two
and in
boys.
1986, I had been offered another job, but I didn't want to, I wasn't going to take that. And so just the fact that I was, Kitty said, and she reinforced it, she was the one that said, you know, we have always wanted to show the kids there's more to life than Fairfield County. Am I right?
Right, right.
And she was the one that was...
Wow.
So we
Yeah.
started working towards trying to leave the next year and take the kids out of school and rent our house. And it was a big, busy year, as you can imagine, but we managed to do it, and we finally pulled away from Rowayton, the river, in 1987.
So you had two boys, and now how old were they in 1987?
They were 9 and 11 when we left. They were 4th and 6th grades.
Okay.
And they were 8th and 10th when we came back.
Wow.
And we had stepped up from the 30-footer to the 40-foot boat.
Okay.
In 1982, always with the
Yeah.
thought in mind of maybe, because now we had two kids with us.
Yeah.
And even we were doing, summer sailing all around up to Maine and back and
Vacations,
vacations.
Right.
But then she was the one that said, let's go.
I'm curious, did your boys take sailing lessons
Yes.
at a young age? And
They did.
They must have
at the Norwalk
found the
Yacht
love
Club.
for it. Yeah, yeah.
Sailed dinghies and that kind of thing. And then they were really brought up on our boat on weekends and vacations. So they were comfortable on our boat
On
too.
the boat.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
so you've made this decision, or Kitty made the decision this time. And
Well, I was all for it.
you were on there, yeah. And you're all set, and I'm sure just even worse or more difficult than the first time, sort of getting it all together to go away was even more challenging. But now you're on the boat, you're on a slightly larger boat. Tell me what happened from there. How was this different than the trip in '71?
Well, one, it was different that now we had electronics. We had a
Yes.
single sideband radio that we could call if we needed help, but also stay in contact with the shore. And there wasn't GPS at that time, but there was a thing called sat-nav, which gave you a satellite navigation. It gave you a fix, a very accurate fix, once every 6 hours or so.
No matter where you were?
Yeah, no matter where we were.
Yeah.
So you were never offline for more
Right.
than 6 hours?
Yeah, so we had that.
But we still used the sextant
Yeah.
Okay.
as well.
Oh yeah, because I was never going to just trust that.
Right.
And
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're off. And you decided to take a different route this time. What was that all about?
well, let me just back up for
Sure.
a second. How we came down here, and then I had a friend sail with me from here to St. Thomas, and Kitty and the kids flew because that was going to be a rough trip, and we didn't
That's
want the
always
kids.
in the fall.
Yeah, and the kids
so
we
during
didn't
a-
want the kids to feel bad on the first trip. So
No.
we got down there, and then we had a great trip. And when we went
Yeah.
from St. Thomas to the San Blas Islands, Alex was a little sick, but as soon as we came close enough, and the porpoises started
Yeah.
sailing, coming along, and welcoming us in. Oh, the kids loved it.
Really?
We had a great trip. And then the only real difference was, instead of coming South Africa, we went up through Thailand, Sri Lanka, the Arab countries, Oman, Yemen, Sudan, Egypt, and then over to Israel, and then through the Med, and then back that way. And that was a real education for them and for us.
So we really need to hear about this, how you felt bringing the children and stopping school, but you didn't stop school, you homeschooled pretty much for this
We
time.
homeschooled them, and back then, back in 1987, there weren't as many people homeschooling children as there are today. So it wasn't so easy to find a program, but there were people, lots of families on boats, and they all used a school out of Towson, Maryland called the Calvert School. And it was a wonderful correspondence program. It was great. And my theory was we did school every day, but there wasn't something more interesting to do ashore. Because we also had 12 months to do 9 months worth of work. And we had weekends and vacations. And if we didn't do school for a couple of weeks because we were, say, in Egypt seeing fascinating things ashore, then
so be it.
So be it, absolutely. And yet in the end, the kids kept up and they completed all 4 years underway.
Yeah, they got back into their normal class when they came back.
Right.
Both graduated from the top 5% of their class. Both went to an Ivy League college.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
They used to say, when they got back here, they used to say they couldn't understand what a narrow view of the world their friends had. The friends had no idea where different countries
were. Where even the places were, I bet. But I have to ask, so one of your boys was 14, and was there resistance to saying, okay, we're going to buy everybody, buy my school, we're going to go for it?
He was only 11
11,
when we left.
and when you came home he was 14.
Yes.
But even at 11, there was no resistance to...
No, and the thing of it was...
It's a big adventure.
Yeah, but not only that, as we got going, now that there was radios and electronics and stuff, there were a lot more families out there. And the families were like our age with kids our age kids. And there was a lot of kids out there. They had many friends. They had as many friends as we have.
Yeah.
Wow.
You would pull into an anchorage and maybe you hadn't been in touch with somebody for a while and you'd see the boat over there and they'd go, oh, there's so-and-so and so-and-so. As soon as we're done school, they hop in the dinghy and they go across and all of them get together. We gave them a lot of freedom. Everybody did, you know. They all knew how to swim. They all knew how to, you know, row dinghies and that kind of thing. And it was fabulous.
That's incredible.
They made some really good friends, and so did we.
And the thing that was interesting is they made friends just as quickly with the local native kids.
Yes.
As with other sailing kids.
That's wonderful.
And the sailing kids weren't necessarily all Americans. You know, they were all from all different countries.
Right, so a diverse group.
It was a very diverse group.
Everybody.
And it was fun because they'd invite some of the local kids on board, you know, and we had, you know, we had Legos. And, you know, they'd never seen Legos, of course, so that was fun. And they were building balsa wood sailboats, and the kids would come and help them. And then they would invite them ashore to their island, and they'd show them how they did this or did that, or how they, you know, made their own boats.
Wow.
Yeah, and you'll see later that when we got, like we were in the Solomon Islands, and they made friends with the local kids, and the local kids were out there with their dugout canoes having races. Well, we got one for Alex and Spencer, and they had it, and they really enjoyed it. And
what an experience for a child, for children, absolutely. You had some favorite places this trip, too. I think you mentioned two that were really special. Tell us about that.
Well, one again, the San Blas was really special.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And the kids might even say, if you ask them, and this is a good question, I'm going to ask them, if someone asked them what their favorite place was, they might still say the San Blas Islands. They're only 1,000 miles from Florida, and but there are no hotels or anything there. And at least back when we were there, there was nowhere to stay ashore, so you really had to go by boat. And everyone was just so wonderful and so friendly, and we were invited to so many gatherings ashore. And as I said, you know, the best thing about traveling by boat is you're taking your home with you. And you can invite everyone on board.
Yeah,
now,
and in Neo Tapu Tapu, in the top island in Tonga, the kids made friends with a lot of the local kids there. We made friends with people. They invited us over to their house. We had them on the boat.
Wow.
It was, again, the whole reason for doing this is not just to see the different islands. It's to understand and be part of the culture and to meet the local people, not just other American cruisers.
Cruisers,
You
right,
know,
right.
that's what we look forward to in it.
Absolutely. I'm sure they.
And I shouldn't probably say this, but I wouldn't go in a rally because they don't get to be the only person in an anchorage and then the people.
In that.
Yeah,
right,
you don't
right.
get to do the same experience that we do.
Right.
That we have.
Now, on this trip, did you have a similar, well, maybe it'll take 2 years, maybe it'll take 3, and I might get a job, or was it a little more, we're going to get back for the 9th grade, or, you know, whatever it may be?
I did get a job, and we were
And you wore your suit Monday through Thursday.
and in New Zealand, we were we had bought a car, and we were taking a trip down, you know, tour around New Zealand. We got to the Waitomo Caves, and then as we were taking another little walk on a trail, Kitty put her foot in a hole, slipped, and broke her ankle. So it took 2 operations, a plate and 4 screws, and we were there for the next 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
then we
gosh.
put the kids in school.
Ashore.
And I happened to be talking to a guy, and it turned out he had a investment bank in New Zealand, and when he heard that I was in the business, he hired me to introduce his bank to all of the people.
U.S. people he was dealing with.
Yeah, the U.S. Mutual funds, you know, hedge fund guys, people that were buying emerging market stocks.
Wow.
And that was fantastic
I
too.
bet.
And the kids then, they went to the normal school. They went into the New Zealand school and they made a lot of friends there.
And of course, because it was the second time we'd been to some places, not
Right.
all, we already had friends in New Zealand, and we were just making more friends. And I was almost sort of glad I broke my leg, because otherwise we probably would have only stayed a couple of months in New Zealand and then carried on.
And how long did it wind up being?
It winded up being 5 or 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And they welcomed the kids in school there. It's, you know, not did you pay your taxes, and they like the input of having foreigners in the schools too.
Wow. Had you, like, probably not, but had you set up, like, with friends you had met the first time to say we're going to be there? And you
No,
know,
when we
maybe
got there, we called them.
you would
Yeah.
call. All right, so
Bang.
it's not so planned.
And all of a sudden, you're right
you're
together.
all together again.
Yeah.
20 years later?
16 years later.
16?
Well, we left them in 72, and this was 88, so 16 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so a nice bit of time. What challenges did you face this trip, if any?
Oh, I know. On the first trip, people asked us about storms. On the second trip, they asked us about pirates. And on the second trip, we were anchored right here off of Borneo,
Okay.
right? At a little desert island kind of a thing, and I see 3 guys, I see a fishing boat going by, and all of a sudden, I look up, Kitty and the kids were down below doing schoolwork. I was up on deck we were anchored, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I look up and this boat's coming right at us, and there are 3 guys with ski masks on.
Oh
And
my
before I
gosh.
could react, they came right up to our boat, put their boat in reverse. One guy jumps on our boat, ties his boat up, and we got 3 guys.
In the
on-
cockpit with ski masks on.
Yeah, and I'm yelling
Oh
at them,
my
get off the boat, get off the boat. And they're yelling at me in Indonesian. I couldn't understand a word they said. Alex sticks his head out the hatch. I said, Alex, get down below. 2 minutes later, Kitty sticks her head out the hatch, hands out 3 Cokes and a pack of cigarettes. Their ski masks come off,
She's
big
smart.
smiles.
Yeah.
We found out later that in that area, the lighter the skin you have, the higher the social standing. And we're right on the equator,
And they're-
so that they had long sleeves,
Yeah,
long
to
pants.
protect their skin from the sun.
And they were protecting their skin from the sun.
That was the whole reason.
That was
for
the whole
mask.
reason.
That's the whole reason. And then,
Yeah.
after we
Wow.
got communicating and we were very friendly and, you know, communicating in sign language.
Sign language, yeah.
Then they brought me onto their boat, opened up the hold, and they loaded me with fish. And they were fishermen.
Yeah.
And I had this, and then they started up their boat, and as they're powering away, they're all three going.
Oh, what an amazing
Yeah,
story.
it was a wonderful, and of course, as Alex or Spencer said later, you know, Dad, I could see right away they didn't have guns. I don't know what you were so worried about.
What the worry was, and that's really
Yeah.
interesting.
It was the ski mask, of course.
Yeah,
that,
of course.
threw us off a little bit. But then we saw that a lot later on throughout Indonesia.
Yeah, and up in
Malaysia.
Thailand,
Yeah.
the fishermen all.
They just really cover everything.
Yeah,
Interesting.
makes sense, actually.
It does make a lot of
Yeah.
sense, doesn't it? So this is exciting. Your kids are going across the equator. What happens with that celebration?
You know, in the old sailing days, the first time you crossed an equator, you would have to go through an initiation to become an Order of the Shellback. And in those days, they would keel haul you, maybe, you know, they would.
Bring you down under the keel and up?
Yeah, but in our time, what we did to our kids is we crossed at about 5 in the morning. All right? You'll see a picture of it.
Yeah,
but
right.
I got dressed up as King Neptune, and then Kitty sent them up on deck. And then I said that they were, you know, Order of the Shellback, da-da-da. And then I picked up a bucket of water out of the ocean and threw it on them to introduce them to the Southern Ocean.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
And then gave them their diploma for now being members of the Order of the Shellback.
That. Oh,
that was great fun.
That's a great story. That's fantastic. Well, we're going to start to see some of the photos from the trip, which will be wonderful, starting with the boat, which was, how different was the boat from the first trip to the second trip?
She was 10 feet bigger.
Okay,
she was a 40-foot sailboat, and that was a huge help considering there were 4 of us.
Yeah, you would need more space.
I mean, 10 foot, it's 30% bigger.
Yeah. What was the name of this one?
Tamaray. And Tamaray is the name of the Tahitian dance that's similar to the hula, but it's a lot faster.
It's a traditional.
And traditional dance.
Wow, okay.
And then we were in the San Blas, and we were in the San Blas. The kids made a lot of friends with other kids, and in fact, Spencer made friends with one little girl who ultimately, you'll see in a second, gave
him a shark tooth necklace.
A shark tooth necklace.
And he still has it.
And he still and
I'm sure he does.
Yeah. That's great.
And when we gave the slideshow to his junior high when he first got back, and I happened to say that we found out later that was the marriage ceremony. And Spencer said the next day, he said, "God, Dad, why did you say that? These friends came up and said, I didn't know you were married."
How cute is that? Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's King Neptune.
This is King Neptune.
Oh yeah, this is the King Neptune. See?
Right.
They were giving him the Order of the Shellback.
So we're crossing the equator here.
Crossing
and
the
you
equator
can see we're under
first time.
sail. The sail's up, and
Yep.
Yeah, no, that was a great time, and it was such an education for the kids. Because and there is the trip all the way across the Pacific Ocean.
yeah.
Oh, we have to stop on this one.
Yeah.
Because this is very special given where we saw last week.
Right. This was in Bora Bora,
Yeah.
and this was
16 years later.
Yeah, 16 years later, and
With
then
the boys.
Yeah,
With the boys,
and
right.
in
The same picture.
in Bora Bora also they were doing this. These girls were doing the dancing the Tamaray.
The boat name?
Yeah, the boat name,
Wow.
and that was great. But the education. Oh, and again, this was a couple in Tonga that they cut my hair.
A couple of girls, yeah.
And then they invited us to their house, and if we can get to the next slide.
But what happened there?
Okay,
And then
they brought us
took you
up to
in.
their house, I guess, and put out a huge feast for us.
Oh.
And they got up and danced and sang, and then
did traditional dances
and then
Just because you had gotten your hair cut with them?
yeah, and there
we are sitting on the floor having this wonderful, and they made all those flower leis for us, and it was just us. I mean, there was no charge for this. It wasn't, it was
just a celebration.
We just all became friends.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then in return, they had a little communal house, you know, for the whole community.
House,
Right?
Right.
And ourselves and another boat that was there, we brought in food and we brought in boom boxes and had a
played
dance
music
and
and
taught. But
So
then
you would entertain them
and this is like
return.
when we were down
This
in
was
New
New Zealand.
Zealand,
The kids
the
going
kids
to
went
school,
to
sure.
school, and as I say, and they got a huge education.
Oh, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And
Oh,
when we
here
were in
go.
the Solomon Islands, we bought this dugout canoe, and they were playing with the other kids, and the other kids would teach them how to turn the canoe over and see,
There you go.
Yep.
you're right,
Yep.
and then
Turn it over.
get back in, turn it back and get
It's
into
not
it.
so easy getting back in.
It looks easy with these little ones, but I'm sure it's not.
No, it's
And we still
we can-
have that canoe. We brought it back
Yeah.
on the deck of the boat.
And here's these are the pirates off of
Quote pirates.
quote
these
pirates.
Are the
These
ski
are
mask
the
pirates.
right.
Okay, these people who wound up being so nice and wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there they are. They're loading me with fish. I'm on the boat. And just to show you how many kids are out there, this was in Thailand for Christmas. There were 14 kids between the ages of 7 and 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
And see from the picture, would you believe
different.
Santa Claus actually came? And here we're teaching the kids how to use a sextant.
Wow, yeah.
So
of
in other
course.
words, we were educating them they
Every
got
minute.
a really good education. And then if we go to the next slide, you'll see
Yeah.
that we were down below.
Teaching them how to
teaching
plot
them
the
how
position
to
and-
work out the fix, the math involved
I was just
and
going to
everything.
say, what a math lesson. Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
Yeah, and you know, then they started taking a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. For the
as
boat
well.
itself.
And
Yeah.
and here back to the
Oh,
education.
this is doing school down below.
They're
Yeah.
they're doing school, and
Did they ever just want to go home?
Never.
Never happened.
Never.
no. Okay, now King Tut's tomb in Egypt.
Oh, wow.
We go up to see that. We come back. Spencer gets out his ancient history book and shows us a picture of the very same hieroglyphics
Yeah.
that we had seen in person.
Yeah.
For
That
real.
is what education is all about.
Is really
You know,
amazing.
and here we are
Oh.
with camels in the desert by the pyramids.
I think that should have been a holiday card at that time.
Yeah,
right?
you know, it should have been. Yeah. Yeah,
See
it
the
was.
family.
You know,
I
the world
love
is
it.
just so different in
It's
so
so-
many places, and
Yeah.
we feel
absolutely.
lucky.
Oh, look at all those
Oh.
children.
Yeah, those are just a
don't
bunch
know
of
why
kids in
they-
Cyprus. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Spencer's looking for
they were
land.
starting to take responsibility.
Yeah.
For the navigation?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Spencer was looking for the land, and Alex, one time we
Look
were
at
in
that.
Fiji, working our way through a
and
reef.
it wasn't charted.
It
So
wasn't charted, and so he climbed up to the top, and we could see the reef from high up, and he's guiding
guiding
us
us through
around.
a channel.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
That is incredible.
and
That was our homecoming. That was a cake that
Coming back.
friends of ours made when we got back.
And we're back.
And there's
I don't
old.
know why.
That's
the first boat again.
Babinka, that's the first boat again, the 30-footer.
Well, I have a feeling what you're going to say, but would you have done anything different?
Not a thing.
Yeah, no, actually, good question.
No,
It's a
I don't
great-
think, I wouldn't
yeah.
have done anything. We just had so much fun. But that last
It
picture with the cake,
Yeah.
people always ask us, God, what's the perfect boat? I say, there's no such thing as the perfect boat. You go with the boat you have. What you do need is the perfect wife.
I bet.
Oh, good.
I mean,
like that one.
It's,
That one
I
was-
like that too.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
But true.
Yeah.
You're really, certainly that trip as well, you weren't near land
We
in a lot of
feel-
No.
cases. I mean,
And-
you're
and if you-
Lucky
sailing.
that we both have liked this life as much
This
as we
passion,
have, and been
yeah.
willing to give up things along the way to get on small
to
boats.
do
and-
this.
Yeah.
Are the boys who are now much older? I shouldn't
They
call
s-
them boys, probably,
Yeah.
but are they sailors?
Young men,
Yeah, oh yeah,
Oh, my
definitely.
They are still
Oh, but
definitely sailors.
one thing I'd love to just quickly
Sure,
say.
sure.
We gave a slideshow of the trip with the kids to a company that Alex first started working in a couple of years ago. And then he came up late the next day he called and he said, God, Dad, he said, the next day this woman, or after you left, this woman came up to me and said, gee, Alex, your parents must be really wealthy to be able to take the time off to do that. And Alex said, I just looked at her and I said, no, they're just cheap. And that's the whole thing. You want to do this. We
You
saved.
have to make sacrifices.
We never
Yes.
owned a new car in our life. We saved dramatically for their college education before
Early
they
on.
left.
And we didn't buy fancy, expensive boats. We bought good, solid, heavy-duty boats that we knew we could do it in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
what-
wonderful life lesson
Because this
too,
is what we
isn't it?
wanted to
Yeah.
do. I don't
Yeah.
care about dying rich. I care about dying a rich life.
That's
Having had one, yep.
yes. What a wonderful message
Yeah.
to our viewers. So, the boys are have some regard for sailing with their families.
yeah.
And what's coming with you? Are you going again?
Well, we usually have been
Well,
going down to the Bahamas in the winter and up to Maine in the summer. And in 2003 to 2005, we went back over to Portugal. We went to
the
the
Azores.
Azores
Still
in
make
Portugal
Portugal.
and did an
Yeah.
Atlantic Circle.
That was
And
a
so yeah,
wonderful
we're still on the boat.
Yeah.
And Spencer, the younger son, he was captain of a Swan 53 down in the islands for a number of years. Then
Wow.
unfortunately broke his leg, and by the time it got healed,
Yeah, he's decided to go back to school.
Okay.
And he wants to be involved in the maritime industry. And so he's going to become a lawyer
Yeah.
and hopefully a maritime
A
lawyer.
maritime
Yeah.
lawyer.
yeah, because he
Isn't
had a
that
girlfriend. Now he didn't
something?
want to leave her behind.
There you go. It all
Yeah.
changes
Right.
like that.
But how do I stay involved with the sea?
Yes.
And so that's what he did. And
Well, you must wonder the same thing, or no? What,
how to stay involved with the sea?
yes, I
well,
mean,
we've been
you
doing
still have
it.
a lot of
Since '01, we've basically been going
and you're doing your
on the
your
boat
trips
almost
and-
9 months a year.
So you are.
Yeah.
You're on the boat still 9 months a year. Wow. That's a real passion, and you've lived your passion. What would
Yeah.
you say to the viewers about living your passion?
Ooh,
My
there's,
My definition of success in life is when you get near the end, you look back and you say, God, I have had a great life. What an adventure, etc. Not, oh, how much money you have in your bank account that you could pass on.
What's my resume?
That is not, and a lot of people say they have a bucket list, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
You did yours.
we've already done ours.
That's great.
And
So
I
true.
have to say, thanks to Kitty, it has been an exceptionally rich life. When I think
Yeah.
back of all the adventures that we have had,
and it doesn't have to be, of course, sailing, but if there's something in life
Whatever
that
the
you
passion
just,
is.
whatever the passion is, exactly.
yeah.
If you can, sometimes
my-
it's a lot of work to make it work.
My father
But
was a
it's
photographer.
always worth
And that's the passion. Well,
Yeah.
we have to say goodbye, but what an honor to meet two people who have lived their passion and who have instilled such wonder in their children. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Having us.